Hello and welcome to, well, I guess this is Denizens does Dune. I don't think that's a good.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
We'll think of it.
Dunizens.
Dunizens!
Denizens. Oh my god.
Do I have to think of everything?
Yes, mate,
Yes.
you do.
Definitely now, Craig. You definitely do.
You do. So, we are going to be playing Dune, Adventures in the Imperium. Walk Without Rhythm, basically, is the subtitle that I've got for this, and I've got a selection of fine friends, old and new, from various walks. I'm Steve, and I'm going to be playing the Shadout Mapes, the gamekeeper, effectively. And I'm going to introduce our players through scenes at the moment, but I will just ask for a quick real name check or preferred name online check. So, playing Tiran Corrado. Who's playing Tiran Corrado? There he is. What's your name, sir?
Hey, you can call me Cornrow or JF,
Excellent.
whatever's easier. But don't call me late for the Dune game.
And immediately to the left or the right, depending which way you're looking at it, Blake Smurk. What's the alternative name for him in the real world?
Yeah, you can call me Craig. My character's Blake Smurk. The Envoy.
And we will meet more and learn more about Blake in just a moment. And who have we got next? Yes, Victor Rond. Victor Rond.
Yeah, that's me.
How do you go?
Elric Wolf. That's me. Well, I'm a smuggler in this one.
Don't give too much away.
No.
Don't give too much away. Now, and we have up next William Turosh. William Turosh. Who are you?
That's me. I'm Nick. And William Turosh.
Lovely jubbly. And we also have joining us Sergeant Brava Marlo. Got the name right this time.
And I am also Steve, but you can just call me Brava or Hey That Guy or Sergeant.
Yeah, we can't have more than one Steve. That's the rule in this game. So, getting straight into it, we are in the House Obscura, and we're going to build what the house looks like together. Now, House Obscura is situated in one of the larger continents of the world of Ektasi, which sits somewhere equidistant between Kaitan, the home of the Emperor, and Arrakeen, Dune, desert planet. There were probably other words to put after that. But Ektasi is this almost paradise-like world. It is a leisure world. It has a temperate climate, maybe a little nippy in places, but it is a place where the rich, the famous, the able go to visit, spend their leisure and cultural times engaging in pleasurable pursuits, but also advancing their intellectual stimulation, because there are concerts, poetic symposia, scientific conventions, all kinds of aesthetic pursuits are centered in Ektasi. And House Obscura is an essential part of cultural life in the Imperium. The camera pans in and we see two figures walking through a corridor that is lit by anti-grav lamps that are just following them at a discreet distance. And we see these two figures having a conversation. They turn the corridor, the camera pans after them for a short while, and then pans into a room, a sort of foyer, if you will. There isn't a game I haven't run yet that hasn't had a foyer, but an entrance room. And walking in through the front door of House Obscura is Blake Smurk. Tell me, Blake, what you're looking like right now, and
Sure.
what you're up to, if you've got any ideas.
Well, I can tell you what he looks like. So he's kind of medium build. He's got a bald head. He's wearing like pretty smart robes, seeing as he's the formal front of the house. So he always tries to look good, put out a good impression. And I've put down he's wearing an excessive amount of jewelry. So he's just layered with like chains. And I think on his picture, one of them's got a clock on it. And he's like got lots of bangles and things, but he generally tries to be quite graceful and stuff, despite all these jangly bangles and things. So he has to be graceful, really, or else he'll cause a right commotion.
As you enter into the foyer, and perhaps you sort of take the time to make sure that you've kicked off any excess dust and dirt off your boots. A house member walks up to you. They're in the House Obscura colours. It's a discreet uniform, of course, because that's part of the ethos of the house. So it is understated, but has an air of refinement and quality to it, her outfit. And she approaches you deferentially. You do know her name, but you can't quite put your finger on it right now. There are so many members of the house. You know, even though you are, you're front of house, so I guess part of your role is to really know who's who. But even so, it's hard to know who all the hired help and staff and servitors are. But she looks up at you and waits for you to engage in eye contact or recognize her existence.
Yeah, I'll acknowledge her. Maybe just nod it in a direction. Yes.
Somewhat timidly, she pardon the intrusion on voice smoke, but Ambassador Irulan asked me to tell you that she requests your presence in the meeting chambers at your earliest convenience.
Irulan. See if that's on the sheet.
This is
Right,
someone, yeah, you know immediately, your character knows at least, immediately who Irulan is. She is kind of your boss, really. She's the noble member who is in the ambassador, head of the sort of communications outgoing between House Obscura and any other entity.
Yeah, thank you. I'll head there immediately, and he will. He'll make haste to the meeting chambers.
So we see, maybe a slightly
Not too fast, though. He doesn't want to start jangling.
You've got to keep it down to just hit that pace between urgency, but not too fast to get the rhythm of the sway of all the jewelry clashing with each other.
Exactly, because our motto is discreet, right? Which is why, hence all the jewelry. I guess I didn't get that memo.
Absolutely, and we would hear maybe the faint whine of the light that is assigned to you. Everyone has a little following light drone, if you will, and it's assigned to you. It whines slightly faster as it sort of like keeps pace with you, but again at a discreet distance, but to give you comfortable ambient lighting as you are moving through the chicane of corridors to the meeting chamber. So it's at this point my monitor decides that the best thing to do is to go to sleep right now. And I have to do that. If you ever wondered why I do a massive loom in lean forward, that's what I'm doing. So as you hurry through the chicane of corridors and you step into the meeting room, this is a formal space, but of course, everything within House Obscura is, dialed down to be ambient and pleasant, and sat at a polished long oval table with multiple swooping, almost sort of very elegant chairs is Ambassador Irulan, and she raises a little eyebrow as you enter the room.
So I'll open the double doors and turn around and close them behind me, and then sort of turn around and do like a little bow and just wait for her to beckon me over.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's not her. Sat next to her, it turns out, because I've put the token on, so I'm just going to roll with it. That's clearly what Roll20 wanted me to do. Sat next to her, you notice, to your surprise, because normally you wouldn't see her in this sort of like context, it's the Contessa.
Yikes.
Yes, exactly. I'm just going to fumble my way through Roll20 controls because it doesn't seem to want to play with me.
If Blake's surprised, he suppresses it
The
as best he can.
The Contessa, yes, is sat next to Princess Irulan, and I mean, she cuts a formidable sort of like appearance, and she just has this uncanny ability, you've noted, to sort of see through people. It's like she sort of like senses intrinsically what they're feeling, what they're thinking. You don't know whether or not that's true, but you do know, even though she's relatively new as your ruler, that she is formerly of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. Ambassador Irulan is also of the same persuasion. She too is of the Sisterhood, but you have, a better working relationship with her. And in contrast to the Contessa, she's quite warm. And she smiles, and she sort of, for a moment, glances at the Contessa to seek sort of like permission to speak, and the Contessa just, nods demurely with those stormy eyes that she has, just sort of flicking towards you and taking you in. And Irulan speaks. She says, "Ah, good. Clear to me then, Blake, that the message was duly delivered. May I ask where you've been this morning?"
Yeah, I've just been making my rounds.
Very
looking
good.
for opportunities.
I see. Can I ask you, please, to gather William, Sergeant Brava, Tiran, and Victor? We wish to have a discreet moment with you all.
As you wish. I'll leave the room backwards.
Yeah, you get the feeling that you are dismissed the instant she completes her sentence, even before she just assumes that you're going to say yes, and everything. That's all assumed. Like the dialogue was over at the end of her sentence there, really, which is something you're familiar with. So
I think Blake might be slightly surprised they've not sent a servant for this job, but maybe that's a sign that this is something of some gravity, so he's not going to make a fuss.
it certainly is atypical. It certainly is atypical that normally, an ordinary house staff member would be sent to collect people together. Also, the fact that it's taking place in this sort of antechamber, this meeting room, rather in the Contessa's own designated offices, is atypical as well. So as you chew over that fact, let's cut to find Sergeant Brava Marlo. Now, go wild with your imagination, Steve. When we see Sergeant Brava Marlo, what do we see him up to? What's he doing? He can be anywhere in the house, doing anything you like.
He is currently in shield practice. He is.
I
with
knew
his
it.
training. Yes. He has activated not one but two different cybernetic training dummies, and is having his two soldiers control them while he practices.
Fabulous. Now, can you think of, would there be anyone in the house in particular that he might train with, or is he exercising with, maybe some of the house guard or some of the marshal's officers? What do you think?
I believe he would be there with his premier trainer. His major trainer is the House Swordmaster, Arno Corvus.
Excellent. So we see you working on your sort of like tactical and fighting sort of like routines. This is sort of like formal sparring effectively, and overseen by your primary trainer, the Swordmaster, and as you're engaging in the hand-to-hand aspects, maybe stopping moment for moment to take on instruction and or give feedback as you're working on your technique. An entrance, a door opens, and it catches you slightly unaware because it is not the normal entrance into this training chamber. It's a hidden door. It just slides to one side. It's an ordinary piece of wall, but suddenly it becomes an entryway, and slipping in, you recognize the Spymaster of the house entering. Now, I'm willing to bet that not only do you recognize him, but probably everyone on the planet and anybody watching this video will recognize him as well. This figure, as he steps in to your training room, has a natural air about him. So we are looking at the Spymaster of House Obscura, who is, of course, he says, quickly looking it up on the sheet, Veritas. And he just stands quietly to one side as the door behind him returns to being a wall. And he watches with an interested look as to the proceedings. Do you take note of this? Do you do anything about that? Does it interrupt your flow, or do you just go with it?
Try not to let it interrupt the flow, with the understanding that distractions and things like that happen on the battlefield all the time. I assume this is another... I assume that my Swordmaster has planned this already and is testing me. Everything is a test.
Indeed, there is a slight smug look about the Swordmaster, you think, as you resume your activities. Well, you don't even resume them, you just continue them with a natural flow. It's at this point that, Blake, you find yourself arriving at the training hall. You managed to get from a passing servant who offered up to you the details for everyone's activities. Everyone has a shared personal agenda. So you knew that Sergeant Marlo was underdoing his training this morning. The training rooms were the closest from the meeting room that you've just left. So you find yourself standing outside the double doors, light just buzzing behind you. What would you like to do?
What is the etiquette for walking into a training room? Will I know that just breezing in with like your robes flapping could get you stabbed, or?
Well, you do know, it's where the house guard, the bodyguard, anyone who, wants to engage in formal practice works out, so there is a discreet sort of like etiquette about it. There is, to the left-hand side of the double doors, a little panel which just works seamlessly into the wall. Has a little illuminated display. It indicates when the training room is occupied, and there is a discreet touch button that that you can press, and that will put a light on the inside and indicate there's someone wanting to come in. So you know that it's etiquette to press that and wait for the doors to be open for you.
Yeah, he totally follows that. But like, if it doesn't open in like a couple of minutes, it's gonna be like going back for poking it a few more times.
Okay. So cut back inside the training scene, and I reckon probably it's just really coming to grips with the finer details of perhaps some personal shield practice is going on sort of like right now. So we see some quite dynamic moves going on. The Spymaster in the background has just got his arms crossed and he's taking it all in. And he glances over and he sees the illuminated cool light. And you would see this Sergeant Marlo. You see him move, and he's like a panther. He does the absolute minimum amount of muscle movement in order to shift himself. And you see him go over and just lightly touch the panel. The doors into the training chamber open, and there is Blake Smurk, House Envoy. And you find yourself, Blake, staring into the eyes of Spymaster Veritas, someone you don't normally come into much contact with on a day-to-day basis. He gives you the willies slightly. He always seems to have this one-upmanship on everybody. And he looks at you and says, "This is somewhat irregular, Smurk."
Spymaster? I need to have a word with Sergeant Marlo.
Well, he sort of like looks over and you can see that, well, what right at this very second as they glance over do they see Sergeant Marlo doing?
They see him trying not to be overwhelmed when the Swordmaster has tried a new tactic where both of these sort of cybernetic, they're not cybernetic, they're sort of like sword dummies, are trying a new advanced tactic that he is not ready for.
And so in that sort of like brief moment, as you both glance over and the Spymaster says, I do believe that he's rather busy right now. And however,
This can't wait, Spymaster. I'm sure you understand.
nothing happens in this house without me knowing about it. Is there something I haven't been informed of? He says.
Maybe you should check your sources, Spymaster.
As I hear the conversation heating up, I'm going to end the practice at this point and can clearly see, like, okay, there's something not normal going on. This is not the usual etiquette. If they're talking, it's something going on. I'll end it and put the sort of hand signal up and put the shield off and say, Envoy Blake, have you finally come to learn how to use a blade, or is there something I can be of assistance with?
I'm afraid this is much more important than that, but I am pleased to see you fulfilling your duties. And if you fulfill your duties, you will reach ecstasy.
As best I can.
Anyway, if I could just have a little word with you, and I'm trying to maneuver him away from the Spymaster, like subtly.
Puts a sword down and kind of...
Well, as you're having this little exchange, the Swordmaster and Veritas are, exchanging looks. You're reading that they're both finding this interruption unusual and are somewhat perturbed. Particularly, Veritas seems irritated, which is one of the highest levels of emotions that this man, produces. The Swordmaster, in contrast, is a man is a torrent of emotion. He doesn't do anything without passion. That's one of his drives. So there is a slightly uncomfortable air.
Yeah. Inside, Blake's very uncomfortable because he's got two people who are, superior to him, who want him to tell him something, and on the other side, he's got the bloody Contessa who he cannot piss off. So,
Yeah,
he's
somewhat.
caught between a rock and a hard place here. But I'm going to try and have my cake and eat it by getting Blake away from them.
So,
before I tell him what's going on.
Are you discreetly ushering Blake a little away from these two figures of power, or are you trying to sort of assuage their fears in some ways? What do you want to do to manage this potentially awkward social situation within the house?
I'll try and appeal to their sense of duty. I think I'll be like, apologies, Spymaster, but I'm sure you more than anyone else understand that it's important to keep appropriate secrets.
His eyes wrinkle. But do you know, I think we need to make a skill roll here. First one of the game. So this is a communication skill that you're using.
Roger that.
For sure. But what is driving you in this moment?
I'm going to argue for duty. He's just doing what he's told, basically. And
Absolutely.
he's put all the hierarchy in order, and he's just following whoever was at the top.
Okay. And so, yep, I'm happy that this is a sort of like a duty role. Now I'm going to set this at difficulty 1.
Okay. So, what can I do to get more dice in this? Is it something I can do with statements and focuses here?
Well, yeah, focuses comes a little bit later, and that will make the possibility of critting easier. But we haven't got any momentum at the moment. So the only thing that you've got left to play with, I think, really, is threat. You can give me some threat in trade-off for some extra dice.
No, you don't need that yet. I'm gonna take a few dice.
All right.
I can't see your character sheet, so I don't know what your traits are. But do you have any traits that can lower that difficulty?
If you think about your personal traits, they might be able to make things easier for you.
He is an envoy, so he's expected to be good at talking,
Okay,
and he is quite a savvy chappy. He's not easily intimidated because he's got unflappable as a trait. So, yeah, maybe a 1.5.
All right then. Well, that convinces me. Then I'm going to lower the difficulty level from D1, which isn't terribly difficult, but it's D0. This is simple. You're swallowing your nerves. Now, still roll, because any extra successes you get are going to build up momentum, and there's always the chance of a complication occurring.
Okay, let's do that then. Yep. 2 successes.
Excellent. I'm just having fun with the interface here. This is always when Roll20 decides to pop everything out, so I can't see anything, I can't control anything. Marvelous. So communicate, duty, and you've rolled a 6 and a 4, 2 successes. Yeah, so it's a D0, so you've actually gained 2 momentum. You can slide them over into the momentum pool if you want.
Okay.
Nice.
Excellent.
Too many sheets open. I'll tidy it up.
I've got the same problem. Excellent.
There we go.
2 momentum in the pool then. So, this is going very well. What bottom line did you want to communicate? You want to do this smoothly, I imagine, but tell me how this goes and how you're successful at this.
Yeah, so he does his little speech about how there are certain. He's trying to insinuate that there are people higher up than the Spymaster, and if he wants answers, then he should go to someone else. But he does his little speech about secrets and then tries to walk out backwards and like tap the door shut button so in front of him.
And I think, you see the Spymaster give a little, he gives a little, he's full of smiles, this guy, never broad ones, but little wrinkling expressions that sort of give away the inflection of his mood. And he has a little wry smile, the eyes sort of like crinkle. You see an exchange going on, non-verbal exchange going on between him and the Swordmaster, who seem to be communicating almost on an intuitive, almost sort of like telepathic level. They seem to have a really strong bond together, which is an interesting sort of like development. Now, when you get extra successes, you can ask for extra information if you want it.
Sure. Could I maybe use one?
Yeah, sorry.
Could I maybe use one to try and work out what his reaction is, or like?
Yeah, just to sort of like get a sense of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
tell if he's like either incredibly pissed off or does he actually really know about it and he's just giving me a hard time?
Excellent. Well, okay, so you spend that momentum. So if you want to dump that one for us, and what you learn as you maneuver your way deftly through this situation is that Spymaster Veritas knows exactly what this is all about. He's not irritated in the slightest, but you get the sense that he's had his eye on you and he was using this as an opportunity to sort of like probe at your skills.
Excellent.
Mm.
Doesn't mean I like him though.
No. Well, he doesn't care whether you like him or not, really. That's the nature of the man. So, mission accomplished in that sense. I guess you're taking Sergeant Brava with you if Sergeant Brava is going to go.
Yeah, I'll now if it looks like I've got some privacy, I'll Sergeant Brava, the ambassador and the Contessa have requested your presence in the meeting chambers, but we also need to get William and Victor as well. So, if you wouldn't mind accompanying me.
Of course. Do I have time to change into a dry shirt?
Absolutely not. We must go immediately. This is the
Must.
Contessa we're talking about.
All right, lay on, Macduff. Let's do the thing.
Okay, so yeah, nevertheless, you would want to briefly, I think, Sergeant Marlo, get yourself dismissed by the Swordmaster, and he has the biggest shit-eating grin on his face that you've seen in a long while. He is the polar opposite of Veritas. He wears his heart on his sleeve. Passion, as I said, is sort of like central to him, and he seems to have enjoyed all of that little dynamic. And he sees you just approaching to give the little formal salute, the end of the training process, and before you've even managed to execute that, he sort of put out his hand and sort of like gives you the sign of dismissal. Go on, he says. We'll catch up another time and I'll show you the ins and outs of that move and you won't be overwhelmed.
So I'll leave the room with a nod, grateful, and grab my jacket and kind of throw it over as I'll try to follow envoy Smurk out the room.
Okay, so the doors close. There's probably a sigh of relief on to a certain extent on both of your parts to be together, because you're sort of like peers with each other and out of the presence of those heavyweights, and you start to step down this sort of chicane of corridors, with individual coded light drones picking up and following you and providing you with discreet illumination. We'll cut there, and let's work out now. Help me out here. What is Tiran Corrado, and what are Victor Rund, and what are William Turosh doing right now that means that they are together for the moment? Wild ideas and suggestions are welcome. Any part of the house, any kind of legitimate sort of activity. What do you think you three are doing?
Playing cards somewhere.
So yeah, possibly. What are you thinking, Tiran?
I was wondering if we'd be discussing someone suspicious we'd heard about visiting our part of the world.
Okay, I think
Because there's so many people coming on and off our planet.
very true.
So maybe we're playing cards and talking about something that one of us got notified about, or came to one of our attentions in a somewhat work-related context.
Is there anything you want to add to this scene, sort of like William, that you want to bring to it? It sounds like you're sitting around enjoying a game of cards, but also talking about local events, what's going on in Ektasi.
William would be like just watching these two, more to see about the cards, how well their poker faces are and all that stuff.
So your focus is much more on the game and reading your friend, colleagues, fellow sort of like players than it is on the ins and outs of the chit chat, right?
No. Sure, yeah, we hear rumours all day, every day. So I'm trying to. I don't know how long I've known these guys, but I'm trying to figure out, how well they hide, like the poker faces, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
How well they can handle themselves in something simple like a card game.
Okay. Let me tell you some things that William does know about these two. In terms of how well you know them, Victor, you're much closer to, because you're much more likely to have worked together or in tandem, because your skills, sort of like work together.
Match up,
yeah, naturally. Tiran, he's more of the analyst type. He's more the man in the chair, providing the tactical sort of like information and analysis on things. So yes, of course you have contact with him, but it's you and Victor who take the risks in the field, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think I would probably just pass a discreet parcel under the table to William as well, something that I've got that he requested.
Found from your present.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent. So you're having this conversation, the cards going around, and you're shooting the breeze. Sounds like it's a fairly relaxed sort of like atmosphere going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, discussing stuff, looking around.
Okay. It's at this point that our envoy and Sergeant Marlo arrive outside. Must be some kind of sort of like recreation room that that William, Victor, and Tiran like share their time in. Doors are closed right now. the lights are just sort of like slowing down, deaccelerating their hum because as you've arrived at the doorway, you've been making a pretty brisk sort of like pace in order sort of like to reach them. What would you like to do?
Yeah, it seems just a recreation room, just like open both double doors, of course.
Yeah, rather than a single
So
one.
come in through the middle. Yeah, with the flowing robes and all that. Corrado, Rond, Turosh, your presence has been requested in the meeting chambers, so you need to stop what you're doing and come with me immediately. We need to go. Is there anyone else in the room? Actually,
Is it a crowd?
Cast of thousands at the back, playing playing ping pong.
Canteen.
What's going on
Yeah.
here? No.
Yeah.
And the bar goes,
Foosball.
really quiet.
Guy wearing an enemy house spy t-shirt.
Yeah, stop playing the piano and everything.
Record scratch as everyone.
Of course there isn't, Blake, because you are the soul of discretion, and you would never have made such an infantile blunder. No, it's just your three colleagues who seem to be enjoying what looks like some kind of card game. No one else sort of like present for now, for sure. But can we have a bit of a description, please? When Blake looks round and sees William, Tiran, and gosh, names are hard, Victor. What do you guys look like? Do you want to kick off, William, and describe yourself a little bit?
Okay, William is young, kind of athletic, slim. He has like blonde hair. He looks very, very average. He doesn't have any distinguishing features. He doesn't have a massive boisterous personality. It doesn't make very much noise when he's walking. He walks very softly, and he sort of uses the other guys he's around as like a shield to like blend in behind. So and he would he's dressed very well, smart gear, and he'll just put his cards down and perhaps discreetly pick up the parcel that Victor's given him and slip it in his pocket like it's no big deal, and get ready to follow this important guy.
Mm-hmm.
We know this is important. We don't get called out of our card games for no reason.
No, absolutely not. I mean, usually communications with more senior members of the house happen with a tight schedule. There's an agenda set, or it's a formal meeting. It's never like this, and it's very unusual. As the camera slides off from looking at the delicate features of William Turosh over to Victor, what do we see? What does Victor look like? And
See a dark-haired, young, handsome man. A bit of a swashbuckling style look to him. He would be, as I say, he's just handsome. He's just very curious, looking at everything, watching everything.
mm-hmm.
He's got this broad shoulders. He looks, I suppose, if you can imagine, he would be quite muscular underneath, but this jacket that he wears looks quite heavy also. But he's slender, he's agile, but he's watching.
Yeah, so your eyes sort of like dance around. You've got a sort of like lively sort of like nature to you.
Yeah.
I get a sense that you smile readily.
Yeah, I'm typical of like as a good-looking chap, and uses it to get his way sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. And as we sort of like look back, as we look around the table, it sort of like pans around, and there's Tiran Corrado. How would you describe him?
So he's heavy set. He's not decidedly overweight, but he's less healthy and less slim than his card playing friends. And he's got he's definitely more noticeable um, than William in the sense that he's got a very kind of piercing gaze. Um, and he just wears the normal house standard uniform that's pretty minimalist and discreet. So it's almost kind of a Rasputin Mad Monk kind of effect. Drab look with long hair and a beard and very intense eyes.
I hope his future isn't anything like Rasputin's past, but he sounds very very distinctive, quite striking. Uh, so that just leaves us really to address, Sergeant Marlowe. What kind of figure do you cut as you arrive at the doorway and you see your peer colleagues just having fun playing cards by the looks of it?
I don't fault them for this. I understand that's actually their job, is to understand how they communicate, to trade secrets, things like that. Just like I assume this is training for them. Brava stands probably 5'10", average, a little average height, a little bit taller than average, but nothing looming. He's athletic, probably not, sort of average height and weight, nothing that would, massive bulk sticking out, anything like that. He has dark skin, sort of a mocha, almost and is clean shaven. His hair is tightly kept back, sword at the hand, shield at the ready, sort of thing, and adjusting his jacket kind of with his sergeant stripes on his shoulder, and begs forgiveness for interrupting their what looks to be, off time. I realize you're not on duty, but apparently we've been summoned.
And then just as we've done the complete round robin, Blake, in this moment, how do you appear in demeanor, as well as
he's still got a poker face. He prides himself on always appearing calm, so he's just trying to keep that up as he's going with all his jewelry, and he's probably still in the middle of the doorway holding it open. His robes. Obviously didn't get the memo on simple uniforms that everyone else does.
Yeah, but you're an envoy, you're in the ambassadorial sort of like section of the house.
Sure.
You have a role as being front of house. You can't blend in and be front of house.
That's true. I can be flashy, so I can cast the light for the shadows to hide in.
Absolutely. References there. Right. So
there is, yeah. You can work it out.
So, what's next for you? I take it you're going to adhere to this summons?
Yeah, get up, flick my hair.
Right, well, let's cut to the chase then. Shortly thereafter, you find yourself, stood in front of this sort of antechamber, this meeting antechamber. It's not typically used for formal meetings with any head of the household. It's more of a preparation sort of like chamber, really. But it's been squared away, and as you enter, you're somewhat surprised to find, as I was, because I didn't anticipate using this token until it popped up, courtesy of Roll20. But the Contessa, looking very cool, calm, and collected, as she always does, slightly austere edge to her. She seems older than her years, sort of wisdom-wise, I'd say. Sat comfortably, a glass of some kind of wine by the looks of it, untouched by her side, but there nevertheless. And the younger Ambassador Irulan, who stood waiting as you arrive.
Sure, I'll announce everyone by name as we come in as
Excellent.
an envoy.
I kind of almost want to make you do that. I want to make you go order and title.
Yeah.
No, I won't put you through that pain. Okay, so as you enter, how do you greet the ruler of your house that you rarely get such an intimate audience with?
Like super politely, how we all know the etiquette is meant to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then go and stand by, assuming if there's chairs. Are there chairs?
There are
Yeah.
chairs. There is a long oval table, highly sort of like polished. They're sort of like swooping chairs that sort of like swivel. There's a plethora of the house lights, by the way, that have been following you in the corridors stop. They don't enter. There's plenty of internal lighting inside the house, inside this room, rather, I should say. And the Contessa is sat at the head of the table, of course, and Irulan is just stood a few feet to one side of her, and there's a dozen or so chairs arranged around this meeting table.
I would stand by a chair and wait to be asked to sit down. I assume everyone would do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it one of those scenarios where, like Victor would go up and put his hand on his heart and bow his head and at your service?
Yes.
And then step back.
At your service.
Yeah.
At your service.
Absolutely, you would do that. You pay your respects in your own particular way, but that would be welcome. And as you stand waiting to be given permission to sit, and so sort of like Victor does his formal deferential sort of like greeting. How do Tiran and Blake and Sergeant Brava conduct themselves in the presence of the ruler?
I will look at the Countess and greetings, Countess, and bow.
Yeah, she eyes you a little bit, maybe sort of like Tiran. Perhaps you pick up a trace of her weighing up how to take your relative informality with her. She says nothing, but I think you would see that Irulan's forehead crinkles with some consternation at your greeting. How about Sergeant Marlo? How does he play this?
I don't know if Brava has ever been in a room this close to the Contessa before. He can barely bring himself to make eye contact, just briefly, and then down again. He's counting doors, he's counting chairs, he's counting guards, he's making sure he knows how many windows. He's trying to sit with his, he doesn't want to sit with his back to the door, and he just keeps his head down and says, "My lady."
And she tilts her head slightly. She's very sort of like minimalist, and she has these, for the moment you glance up and see her eyes, maybe don't quite make eye contact, but register their presence in her face. She has these intense, stormy eyes. They're not the intense blue of the Fremen, but nevertheless there is an unsettling quality about them. Ambassador Irulan, steps forward, and she just glances over to make sure that the doors are shut as they are. And she says, "Now, I'm sure this is somewhat unexpected for you, but something has arisen and you have been selected to undertake this mission. Please take a seat, pay attention. And she waits for you to seat yourselves.
Go and take a seat.
Bravo will do
Yes.
so with all haste, trying to keep an eye on the doors.
Yeah.
What are the chairs like? Are they just like normal, like, table and chairs type,
God,
dining?
no. No. I mean, imagine the Emperor's chair in The Empire Strikes, but that long sort of like swooping one that sort of like swivels, that this all form. They're very, very comfortable, but they have sort of. God, I can't believe I'm going to say this chair has a commanding presence, but it does. I'm not that much into interior design. They're pretty significant pieces of furniture.
We're not treated to the cacophony of everyone scraping their chairs.
There's none of that going on now.
Yeah.
Great.
This is the House of Discretion. Everything is discreet,
We've
even
got
the
wheels.
We can afford felt.
Casters.
We can afford the little felt
Yeah.
pads. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you slide into your chairs, and Ambassador Irulan, glances over at the Contessa, who just silently gives her the nod to go ahead. So far, the Contessa has said not a word to any of you. The ambassador, sort of like accepts the permission from the Contessa, and she starts to fill you in. It's like you're getting a mission briefing right now. You say that it has, it is a signal honor that the House of Obscura has received. A renowned Imperial artist in residence is hosting an exhibition here at Ektasi. This has been commissioned and authorized by the Imperial Court. Members of the Imperial Court will be traveling to Ektasi in order to attend this exhibition. Our house has been selected, and she looks you all in the eyes to make sure that you register the gravity and the potential of this situation. Has been selected to ensure that everything goes smoothly, that the artist's needs are met, that everything about this exhibition meets the cultural tastes and requirements of not just Talia Norell, the artist in residence of the Imperial Court, but also of the Emperor himself. And she just sort of like pauses for a moment to sort of like read how that goes down. Stunned silence by the looks of it.
Yeah.
I'm,
Sink in.
Just trying to take it all in.
I've got the half-closed mentat eyes as I'm already beginning to process things and cross-index this artist's name with what I already know about her fans on our planet.
Oh, that sounds like, you're trying to piece together, trying to get some information together to try and sort of like understand more about who she is and what she's about. What kind of skill do you think we're looking at here, Tiran?
Would this be? I don't know.
Oh, I mean,
Because we're kind of like,
crossing a
what
few
is
things,
the-
aren't we? Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like trying to know what it's like. Do I know something about this person? Would I have that kind of knowledge in my memory?
Well, tell you what, I mean, it doesn't quite easily sort of like fit into one sort of like skill, but it seems to fit more into communication than any other that I can think of. But let's go with communication. And
Yep.
what kind of drive do you think applies here?
I'm trying to determine the truth about this person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the truth is more powerful than any weapon, is my statement. So I think essentially trying to gain power in this situation by understanding what I can about this person visiting.
Okay. Now,
Alright.
are there any personal traits you can leverage? Because this is not easy. This is
So I'm a
pretty difficult.
so there's mentat, which is like the base mentat trait,
Mhm.
and my personal one would be perceptive.
Okay. Yeah, I think those can kick in here. So I'm going to reduce the difficulty level a notch. So it's a D2 that you need. Have you got any focuses you can apply?
Social awareness, not necessarily. Well, maybe social awareness.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're sort of like, your sort of like understanding of sort of like different characters and sort of like
How people react
hierarchies, how
to
people
things,
react to things.
how
Yeah. Yeah.
people react to artists, the relationship between art and the court, and
Yeah.
so if I click on,
Now there's some momentum in the
communicate,
pool. There's one left from earlier
I
successes.
think I'll be okay. I think
Okay.
I'll be okay because I've got focus on there. So I'm just trying to. How do I get the role to activate? What do I need to click on?
Um,
Good skill.
yeah, click on the skill.
When it highlights orange, it's not doing it for me. Weird. They're supposed to. Oh, there's a little pop-up that comes up. There
Yeah,
it is.
you'll get
The
a little
pop-up was
pop-up and it'll ask you for how many dice
what
in the
was
pool.
hiding.
Yeah.
There we go. Truth. 2 dice. Using a focus. Yes. There
Nice.
we go.
Ooh.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's a crit failure, isn't it? It's a crit fail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
wow.
complication.
We've got a complication, and unfortunately, you don't have any successes. Now, you have the option with momentum. You can either sort of like accept what's going on and take that, and we'll figure out a complication, or you can take on the possibility of a reroll.
Yeah. Or also determinate. I could burn my determination on that.
You could burn your determination. Yeah.
Or I could accept this as like I come to a dead end at this point, and we're still early on in the game. And just accept the fail.
Yeah.
Oh, and that complication.
You got a complication though. I mean, unless you want to give me threat, because that's the other way that we could deal with it.
Let's give you threat to get rid of that complication.
Okay. Now you should be able to dish them out from the threat pool there. I accept donations.
All right.
Nice. Okay. So, I mean, if anyone was looking at you, what would they see you doing? How does this attempt to draw upon what you know, even though it has not gone so well this time, which is rare, how does it manifest? What does it look like?
As it would have been, eyes almost closed, moving rapidly, slow breathing, almost a meditative state, except for my eyes would be moving very rapidly.
Okay. Casting about. Any other reactions and or things that you want to do in this moment as Ambassador Irulan pauses with this news?
What do we know of the people that she's talking about? Do we know them anyway?
Yeah, would I have come across them on my travels?
Wow, it sounds like, another attempt to sort of like dredge up what you know about the artist in residence, or are you wanting, or is it about the Imperial Court?
Well, let me use this talent that
Nice.
I know all of us
Okay.
have. So,
Ha!
um,
Right. Mhm.
what do we know about the artist in residence?
When you enter a scene, you may ask one question of the games master, the shadow mates, as if you'd spent momentum to obtain information.
Nice.
Touche, nice use of a talent there. So here's what you know. The artist in residence is an imperial title. It's possibly not as significant as it might sound. There's a lot. It's a bit like being poet laureate. These sort of like days. There's a lot of historical and cultural significance to it for sure. But in terms of what actual power and or status they actually wield, is purely symbolic and very much at the whim of the Imperial Court, very much at the whim of the Emperor himself, in fact. So, yes, Shaddam IV, the Emperor nonetheless, personally appointed this artist in residence. So that's something you specifically remember. They are, as I said, a bit of a relic, a bit of a cultural relic within the institution of the Imperial Court. There's a lot of prestige attached to them, but no power, no real influence other than a cultural one, I guess, really. And as I said, yes, it's specifically the Emperor who appointed this woman. On top of that, I'm thinking, what else is relevant to tell you? So you remember reading? Actually, no, you remember overhearing a conversation with your technical director, your artistic technical director, who of course is Veritas, because the Spymaster is the artistic director of the house. You remember overhearing a conversation that he was having with some of his staff members, that this Talia has been artist in residence of the Imperial Court now for some 15 years, and he was saying that it's really time for her to make it or break it. She's been in residence for so long, she's never really reached her potential. She's not become, as previous artists in residence have, sort of a celebrated artist of her generation. She's been this sort of solid, dependable, reliable producer of great artworks. But she spends, he thinks, in his opinion, Veritas' opinion, she spends so much time trying to avoid being fashionable that she's never really been able to capitalize on her position. And so it's really significant that there is to be an exhibition commissioned and hosted here on Ektasi.
Okay. And do we know the woman, the artist in residence? Is she from what sort of house is she from? Do we know?
Well, I mean, she sits within the Imperial Court. She lives on Khitan now.
Okay.
She's considered to be effectively part of the Imperial House.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to need to do more information gathering to go deeper into her personal background and history and her house origins to get that info. Your talent's given you so much, but I can't give it all.
Sure. No, that's cool. So we want this to go well for her. Is that what we're getting from this?
Well, It's important for House Obscura that it goes well because this is a signal honor for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Imperial Court to hand this over to you. A minor house
Yeah, yeah.
is curious, but also potentially overwhelming. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny on Ektasi and on your house for this to go well. You guess what it means really for her is that this is her make or break moment. If it goes well for her, she could break through and finally become the celebrated artist she ought to be. If it doesn't, then she's on her way out.
Okay.
Ambassador Irulan, sort of like takes in your stunned silence, the sort of like studied eye fluttering of Tiran, the look that whatever look it is that passes or doesn't pass over William's face, she looks to try and read your expression. She glances at Smurk and Marlo, and for a moment she looks back to the Contessa, who again has just sat in calm silence, and she says, "Lynn, surely I do not have to emphasize to you how significant it is for the house to be granted this honor, and how important it is to the Contessa that this is executed flawlessly."
Yeah. Smirk will say, Ambassador, we can handle this. We will not fail you.
One more thing. Spymaster Veritas will be having a word with you shortly in order to brief you on the second layer to this operation. Of course, primarily this is about providing a discreet service to the artist in residence. On the other hand, it is also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to gather potential intelligence on multiple notable figures who will be gathering to attend the exhibition. He will be briefing you in 10 minutes. And she looks at you, Smirk, and there's a little shine in her eyes.
Yeah. You can trust us to be discreet, of course.
I have always had and remain having, she says to you, Blake, the utmost faith in your abilities and of you all. And she looks to the Contessa sort of like briefly as if, giving her space to say anything. The Contessa, who has said nothing throughout the entire duration of this, leans a little forward, fixes you all with her gaze, and says, "This is our opportunity. If we do not take it now, we may never get this chance again. Do not fail." And she stands, and Irulan almost curtsies, because remember, they're both Bene Gesserit, and it's like they fall into that pattern of superior and novice instinctively, and the Contessa just glides out of the room. And there's a moment of quiet, sort of like hush afterwards. Irulan relaxes by about 3 or 4 degrees levels of anxiety, but then catches herself and remembers that who she is and who you are. Looks around and says, "Well, you've only got a brief period of time before you get briefed by Veritas, so I suggest you do whatever you need to do and don't be late for him. You know how bad-tempered he can get when people are late. He almost gets cross." And she gives you a little smile.
Don't return it. Stone faced.
Excellent. Okay. So you've got a brief moment here where you can do whatever you need to do. You do need to sort of like report in, obviously, and be bang on time for Veritas. Otherwise, we might as well just end the campaign with a TPK. But what would you, as Irulan perhaps leaves the meeting room, leaving you all to your own, what would the conversation be, and/or what would you like to do before stepping in to see the Spymaster?
Do we get the idea that he's coming here in 10 minutes, or we have to go to his place?
Oh, you have to go to him. Yeah, he doesn't come
yeah,
to.
Cool.
Is his
I
place a
imagine-
10-minute walk away?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We just start heading there and chat on the way.
Thankfully, it isn't a
20-minute walk
away.
away.
No, it is a 20 minutes walk away. No.
That springs
Yeah.
in.
He's in.
Yeah.
He's in the annex. No, it is relatively sort of like close by. You've got 6-7 minutes, a couple of minutes, to get there. So you've got time for a brief conversation if you want to have one, or to do something.
I think we'd all be better off if the sergeant had time to grab a shirt.
Yeah,
Good
idea.
You recall Irulan's eyes upon you, from time to time, her glancing down, at your sweat stains, sort of like Marlo. If the Contessa noted anything about it, she wasn't so base as to sort of like reveal what she noticed or what she thought of it. It's like she was beyond noticing that. But you certainly do feel pretty self-conscious in your outfit right now. So yeah, you could grab something.
I'll try to do so. Grab a fresh shirt as quickly as I can, and then I have my jacket on over it, but it's obvious that he's been sweating, and obviously he's been right from.
In fact, what you can do is, you could just sort of like step out into the corridor and grab one of the many members of staff, and call to them.
Say, like you, give me your shirt right now.
Yeah, and the little wizened-faced of the Shadow Mapes, the housekeeper, sort of like eyes you. She has a sort of drawn back brown hair, but with sort of like streaks of grey running through them. She has uncharacteristically sort of like dark eyes, a little tight-set mouth. She wears sort of like fairly plain outfit, but with the discreet sort of like colours of Obscura. And she says, she just says, but of course, and then she rushes off at top speed, with a house light buzzing after her, and returns very shortly with clean pressed linen for you to change into, so you can carry on the conversation without any bother.
The Emperor is coming here. Holy hells.
Yes, it does seem to be rather an important opportunity for us.
Yeah, the eyes of the universe will be on our house here.
And the eyes of our house will be on the Emperor's contingent.
So when she said we have to help them, what exactly was our mandate before we even get into like what our actual, what did Irulan say that our task would be?
I believe that we need to make sure things go smoothly. I don't know if we're on the hook for the actual artistic success of things. I believe that would be a little bit outside of our purview.
Yes, but how you display an artwork obviously adds a lot of value to it. So if we display their artwork in a shoddy manner, it will reflect badly upon us. Plus, we have to make everyone comfortable.
Do we know what media they work in? Because is this a displayed artwork or a performed artwork, or we may not know yet.
I've never heard of her. I'm sorry, it's a bit beyond my.
Well, I mean, William is familiar with her, and so William knows that she is she works solely in the media of paint. So she is a painter. So these will be displays of her paintings. She doesn't work in any other media. She's incredibly traditional and conservative in that way.
Can I ask you to repeat her name?
I'll let everyone know.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just asking you to repeat the artist's name again. I
Yeah.
didn't get to jot it down when you said
Yeah. So
Lavia.
Talia Norell.
How?
I'll pop it into the chat
Yes, please.
because there's a lot of names like this in this game.
Yeah, I'm taking notes as I go, and I want to make sure I'm trying to keep track of everything as well. So I appreciate it.
There you go.
Oh, that's a much more sensible spelling than I came up with.
I was pretty close.
I had a lot more ease in mine.
A lot more ease, yeah.
So William was saying something about this artist?
Yeah, if you don't know, I would explain to you that she's a painter. You know, didn't you see her article in the last, whatever the publication is, where, you know, Artist Weekly?
Yeah, there would be some,
does,
be able to cite some artistic review, which
yeah.
is.
She generally does 6 by 8 foot oil paintings.
She,
Of a specific light to not affect like how they look and like so they don't get damaged. You know, like the Mona Lisa, that famous old, really old painting in a different universe. The Mona Lisa has to have certain lighting effects to not spoil it. She uses like oil paint that's made with iridescent butterfly wings, so that it's like super like beautiful.
What's their headline art piece called? Just reclining nude or something. 6 foot by 8 foot.
Yeah, close up.
It will be a lot easier than providing security for that performance artist that we dealt with last year with the explosives.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we don't want to repeat that incident.
No, the stress from that.
I'm making a note of that because that sounds like a potential flashback that I want to get into. Okay. So,
I think maybe we need to hear what Veritas wants, what angle Veritas wants us to work before we can get fully into planning this. I mean, exhibitions are bread and butter, I guess. So we should be fine with that. I have great confidence in us.
We should all go in exactly 1 minute late, so he thinks his watch is wrong.
that's a risk.
I don't know if that's wholly appropriate.
As the one who generally would work with Veritas the closest, I probably know that that's not something he'd fall for.
Sure. He's got like 5 watches. Okay, who knows?
Well, watches are gone because of the Butlerian Jihad, so as Mentats, he's the last
You
guy
just
left
know
who
what
knows
time
what
is. Yeah, sure.
that guy who's just like, yeah, it's about 4:45.
Yeah, bang on. Impeccable sense of time. It's that really annoying talent that GMs wish you hadn't picked. Because you constantly get to ask, what time is it exactly? The GMs hate answering that question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have your bit
I
of
think on the
conflab.
wall there, if William starts dawdling, I was like, poke him along, speed him up a bit.
No,
we don't-
William doesn't
so we don't turn
dawdle.
up 1 minute late.
No. William's on a mission to get there before all you lot, actually.
Alright, in that case, I'll
But he's
float
on a
along
march.
behind.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so you you make your way through the halls. It's, as I said, just a brief walk to the Spymaster's office, essentially, the sort of nexus of House Obscura, where plans are made within plans, if you pardon the reference. This room is really unassuming. I mean, you are ostensibly, to all purposes, an artistic house that provides impeccable, discreet services to those who need them, lighting and sound engineering, theatrical displays and setups. You're not a spy house. So, this office is unassuming and looks very much as you would expect a technical art director's office to look like. It's, there are portraits, there are sculptures, there are, works of art dotted around. It's really comfortable. There are, there's informal seating. There is a desk, but you very rarely see the Spymaster at it. If he's using the desk, it's just being perched casually, sort of like on top of it. And when you arrive, the doors are already open.
If it's just a Spymaster in there, I'll go in first and announce everyone, just so he has to wait longer before he can start talking. Slightly less grand as you would for the Contessa.
Yeah. So, I mean, Veritas is, perched on the edge of his desk. He is, he has his formal house garb on. But it's a bit like, in some of the Star Trek movies where they have that sort of like detachable part to it. So, that is, so he's relaxed a little. He's presenting to you certainly the impression that he's casual and relaxed about this, and his appearance and his manner fits it. He has his arms crossed as he listens to you rattle off a short series of introductions, and he has a smile on his face, and he will just say, Master Smurk, there's no need for these formalities. I know perfectly well who you all are.
As you wish, Spymaster.
I make no effort to hide my amusement at the introductions, because Veritas has a good enough sense. I feel Veritas has a good enough sense of humor that this will play reasonably well. So I make no effort to hide how amused I am.
Yeah, he does. He says, "Come on, we need to put our heads together around this. There's so many opportunities and a lot weighing on us. This is a golden opportunity to really gather enough surveillance to put us in a position to influence where we are, but also where the major house is in respect to the Landsred. So let's forget for a moment that I am the artistic director and Spymaster for the house, and just pretend, why don't you, Blake, that I am on your level. Give me your immediate thoughts, impressions. What do you want to know?
Well, who's our potential target that we can surveil?
Well, the guest list is extensive. But amongst
Did you say there's informal seating? Sorry.
In his office, yes, there is no formal seating in his office.
In that case, I've put myself down in a beanbag.
Yeah, certainly there would be some kind of. It's possibly a bit more. Isn't it like a beanbag met a futon, and they, they combined together to produce, sort of like something aesthetic and incredibly comfortable at the same time. but the chance of you getting out of it alive pretty slim. It holds on to you.
I'll roll for that later.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be a difficulty 4 at least. So,
Brava will stand. He will not sit.
and you think that's one of the reasons why Veritas likes this office, because it's super informal and everyone gets, most people find it difficult to accept being comfortable around him, that there's some, this is a deliberate strategy of his, and I think Tiran, you would appreciate from your understanding of Veritas that he's a master at playing mind games. That's he thrives sort of like on it. It's one of the few things that really sort of excite him. He is a man of relatively low emotion, very dry sense of humor. So the guest list, yes, well, it is extensive and also not quite what you imagine, but I can brief you on it. And he would hand you out some documents, and they're all marked, House of Obscura, eyes only, appropriately sort of like stamped. You also notice they got your initials on, so if you lose these documents, they're tracked to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's the same principle for a movie script in Hollywood, that everyone gets these personalized ones. And there's quite a long list. I'm not going to go through them all. But sort of like number one at the top, of course, is the Emperor himself. And then there's a whole list of his entourage. It goes on and on. And then you start getting into other parts of the Imperial Court. You've got a man called Saul Darian. He's billed as a well-respected artistic advisor to the Imperial Court. There's Nyren Jurel, who is another artist in residence at the Imperial Court. There's a listing of several other house mages who have been invited to the exhibition. Nearly said expedition then. And I can detail a bit more on them in a bit. There is also a scion of a minor house called Anna Vissarion. And she's from the House Corrino, who are really quite a significant, very old house, perhaps not quite as sort of at the forefront of Landsraad and Imperial politics as they used to be. A little bit crumbling and decrepit, but nevertheless a very, very significant great house. But you don't immediately recognize who she is. So those are the significant highlights from the guest list.
And I will ask Veritas this if I can't think of a way to figure it out for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of the major houses that are attending patrons of the Barragans, our enemy house, which is a minor house, I believe?
Yeah, that's right. House Barragan, who's the least friendly with you here on Ektasi. Yeah, a minor house. Yeah, one of the two houses major, House Charlin, relies on House Barragan for its military wares, its military warriors. House Barragan supplies you know, a lot of the forces for House Charlin. The other major house that's been invited, Roshan, doesn't have anything to do with Baragan as far as your information indicates. Again, if you want me to repeat things or stick names in chat, I can do so.
That'd be super helpful. Tiran might know, but with your wealth of like sort of cataloging, you know, information, do you see any houses here that are under canly with each other, that are engaged in like vendetta against each? Is there anything popping out that's potential issues here?
That's a great question.
Yeah. So what if we look at the houses that are coming and the major guests?
Yeah.
The Scion from House Carino, there's House Trallin, and there's House you mentioned as well. Now, I'm assuming nobody's in a canley with the Emperor because that's not going to be too sustainable. But are there any conflicts happening between Trallin and Roshan and Carino?
That is a fabulous question, and I think we need to make a skill roll to determine what you know about that. And I am going to make, because you are currently with Veritas, the Spymaster, have access to him, and he is in a convivial mood, a convivial sharing mood. I'm going to bring the difficulty down. Nevertheless, these houses do not like to make they don't air their washing in public, unless some conflict has really brought it to light. So this is a D3, but it was going to be a D4.
We assist with
Yep.
discussing like what we've come across, what we've heard of.
Yeah, absolutely.
See if any of us know anything anyone else doesn't.
Yeah, you can bring a D20 to the party. Yeah.
Can I apply perceptive to further modify the difficulty?
How do you want to argue that applies? Tell me. Give me a little bit more narrative meat, because I think it's a possibility. But sell it to me.
I guess the question is this more of me trying to convince Veritas to tell us, or me trying to figure it out? Because if I'm trying to figure it out, I think perceptive would apply. If I'm trying to get the information out of Veritas, then it's more communicate based, and I don't think perceptive would apply.
Well, I've already said that, sort of like Veritas is being pretty convivial, and that's reduced the difficulty level. Yeah. So it's not about teasing it out from him.
It doesn't really apply. Yeah. Okay.
No. You got anything else?
All right. No. If it's not teasing it out from him, then I don't think I've got anything.
Okay.
Or well, if it's figuring it out, then I think perceptive might apply, in the sense that we're trying to. But no, it's more of an analytical sense. No,
yeah,
you're right.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. So it would be a roll for 3 difficulty.
Do you want any momentum or threat here?
I think I might use a talent that would help me on this one. In that, if I could.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh,
so just. Oh, it's not. Oh wait, if we. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you highlight the text, it'll show up. Like if you drag your mouse cursor over the text.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's new. I didn't know that.
Oh, it's white text on a white background. That's rough.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, well, I seem to be able to see it really easily.
Yeah,
oh, weird.
Maybe it's a dark mode thing.
I think it's a dark mode thing, because I have no trouble reading it.
Yeah. Dark mode, yeah.
So
if you're in dark mode and everything comes up blank, just drag your cursor over it and it'll
Pro
He's
tips.
highlighted.
So you're bringing intense study to bear here. You're extremely well read, vast amounts of knowledge about a wide range of subjects. Once per scene, and this is a new scene, you may use your understand skill on a single skill test instead of another skill, and you are counted as having a focus for that test. Nice. Yeah, definitely bring that to bear.
So if I bring that in, and then I bring in the momentum, I think I've got a reasonable shot at this one.
And you're going to get some help.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go back to. So this is going to be understand because I'm using my skill to use understand.
Yeah.
My drive, I think, is again the truth that we want the truth,
Yeah.
power of the truth to protect us.
Yeah.
And we are going to be rolling 3 dice or 4 with the help. Is that how the help works?
Well, they roll a d20 for you under their own skill, and you get to add that in if they're successful. Yeah.
So I'm rolling 3 dice right now. 2 normally, 1 for momentum.
Yep.
And I get a focus because that's the trait. That's the talent I use.
Automatic. Yeah. Nice.
We get 3. And we just dodged the complete complication. And I'll put the momentum back.
Nevertheless, let's see if we can get some more momentum
Oh, yeah,
as
that's
well,
right.
so we get the supporting roll.
Momentum.
Yeah, if you want to do that, please.
I
William?
will. So, what do I roll the same skill?
No, you don't.
Rolled?
Doesn't have to be the same skill. You can, what kind of skill would you be bringing? I mean, he's really bringing all his knowledge and understanding of court politics together and everything that he's read. You can use any skill that you like that can add into that.
Yeah, I think I'm more thinking about, like who I've heard of, who I've worked for, I heard rumours from.
Okay.
So tell me what kind of skill that would be.
Maybe this is more about people that you've communicated with, sort of like in the past, and
Right.
sort of like remembering little dialogues, times when you've been working, alongside your smuggler colleague and you've shared stuff with him. Yeah, so I'd say that could fit into a communication there.
Okay, so I hit communicate.
And what
And which
drive you
drive?
after, yeah.
I mean, if I were looking at my drives, I would try and go for power because I'm seeing this as like our opportunity to advance ourselves, and that's what I want, you know what I mean? Like my ambition as well,
Nice. Is this lining
How
up
did you-
with
how did you-
your power statement?
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm not sure if that'd.
Well, tell us what it is and we'll figure it out. Because sometimes you might end up in
Well, it
conflict with
says-
it.
Yeah. So it says power comes at a knife's edge. I know I haven't got a knife to anybody, but that's
No,
not to
but
say
it's
that
might be a
won't happen.
metaphorical sense of a knife edge, that you've got to take risks in order.
definitely,
I don't think this is a contradictory to your drive statement at
Cool.
all, really. Yeah.
I use power. So I just roll the 1 dice because it's an assist, right?
It is, yeah.
How does your ambition work? Is that something else that you can bring into it, or is that for like other?
No, you can't leverage as a mechanic really, but it's
All right.
more of to give you a personal goal for your character.
Cool. All right, wicked. Using focus, no. Okay, another
Nice.
success.
Another success. So how many successes
Well,
have we got all together there?
That's 4 total. So I'll drag our momentum back.
Brilliant.
Or 1
So you get
momentum.
it back. That's nice. So, you are really having to pull together, dredge up everything that you have come across, come across your desk effectively all of the studies deep into the Mind Palace. I imagine we're going here, and in some areas, and that are rarely explored. You're thinking about relatively inconsequential communications, tangential sort of like relationships, and you're able to correlate that with information that William brings to bear about handovers that have happened between him and your smuggler compatriot Victor, where he's told you, William, about deals he's had to do because he often sort of like supplies people on the planet of Ektasi with things, as well as bringing things that House Obscura sort of like needs. He's often bringing in revenue through his smuggling business, and you're involved often in helping set that up with your infiltration skills. What you piece together is that there is enmity. There's enmity between Trarlin and Roshan. It's a bit more than a rival. There is a very carefully managed Canley vendetta between these two houses. Well done. I really didn't want to give you that information, but you bloody well deserve to get it. But I think you've done really well there to sort of like pile
Great
all
job,
that out.
Matt.
Yeah.
Meant that.
Yeah.
I think this creates a unique opportunity for us if we could help Roshan act against Trallin. It can also weaken Berrigan.
I think here at this point, Veritas would lean forward and said, of course, you are always seeing and analysing the opportunities, aren't you, Tiran? That is your purpose. But even an honourable fight in the exhibition hosted by us will reflect poorly on our house. We have to do everything to make sure they don't launch into a duel or something stupid like that. But there is an opportunity, yes.
Any kind of assassination, even an attempt, could reflect poorly on the whole exhibition.
This is very true. We would not want to have anything happen while people are here, but
especially while the Emperor is present. I mean, that
absolutely not.
That escalates things to a whole other level.
But we can always provide information.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, there's a number of other aspects to this operation that perhaps you haven't quite grasped yet. We are hosting, but we are providing every aspect of service for the Imperial Court here. It's not just a matter of us presenting these paintings in an aesthetically pleasing way. But don't get me wrong, that is at the forefront of my thinking here. It's also that we need to make sure that it's secure, that our guests are comfortable, and that everything goes entirely smoothly. So it's not just about a presentation of this art and making sure that the artist is served. Don't get me wrong, I think that's extremely important, of course, as artistic director. But we have to make sure that nothing untoward happens. So it's security, it's transport, potentially crowd management situations might be relevant here. We don't want unwanted, uninvited guests. So there's a lot to think about. And he sort of like leans back and looks quietly determined.
I am sure the Emperor is used to a certain amount of comfort and hospitality. Will they be bringing their own um, uh, residents there? Will they be bringing their own ship to stay in, or will they be expecting to stay in one of our suites? Do we know?
Oh, we will not have to be concerned about caring for the members of the Imperial Court. They will be bringing their own vessel. They will be staying on board in their own vessel. They will provide their own security detail. However, those other guests we are responsible for, and any outside influences that might get in the way of a flawless exhibition, we're responsible for that too. So making sure that there is no member of the public that we do not wish to be there, we're responsible for that.
We'll need to consult with Marshal DeVito.
Yes, well, absolutely. Of course. And he sort of like smiles at the very mention of the name of the Marshal.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm interested in is making sure that we take the opportunities to get the information that we need. This is why the Contessa has asked me to select the team. I have selected you. Now what I want to know is who is going to head up the security side of the operation, and his eyes flick between you and flick to you, Marlo, first.
I would defer to Tiran, of course, but I'm happy to bring all of my training to bear on this matter.
I feel this is an area of your expertise. If you need some intelligence about possible threats, please consult me.
And Veritas sort of like dips his head in appreciation. Well, yes, the conversations that I have had with the War Master Marlo indicate that he thinks you're more than ready to take on this responsibility. But of course, naturally, we have to run this past the Marshal. It's a necessary evil, one might say, but it is his jurisdiction. Nevertheless, I don't care what Marshal DeVito wants. You are in charge of the security. Is that clear?
Understood, sir.
Next up, who's going to take care of hospitality? His eyes immediately flick to Smurk.
Yep. Of course, I'll be handling hospitality with our guests and ensuring no one gets offended, comes a voice from the beanbag.
And, I think he just sort of like shifts off the table. Now, don't get me wrong, Smirk. I think you probably have the hardest job of all. You've got to make all these people who don't really like each other be nice to each other. You've got to make sure that any friction is contained. Now, this is the last make or break exhibition for this artist. And he looked down at your list there. Niran Jarel is another artist in resident at the Imperial Court. Nothing would please them more than for Talia to make a searing blunder or something to go wrong at this exposition, because they have vested interests in taking over that important Imperial artist in resident position. Not only that, but Saul Darian is a searing critic. He's an artistic advisor, absolutely, but his caustic remarks entertain people in artistic circles but damage people's reputations. You've got to be on the lookout to manage all that. So I think you've got the toughest job of all. After all, if anything goes wrong with the security, you just turn on the house shields, because there are shields for this gallery.
There is no social problem that cannot be fixed with enough leverage, so as long as I can get the ammunition to keep these fellas in line, then I'm sure then everyone will play nicely.
Well, sounds that you are going to need to work closely with Tiran then and dig up what you can, get all the dirt and ammunition that you need in order to leverage against people who start to get out of order, and deploy it before they even think about it. And he then sort of walks around as he has been, and looks over towards you, William. Now, I've selected you, and I'm wondering whether or not, as our house infiltrator, you can work out why that is, he says.
I can. It's in my job description. I'll get you that ammunition that you want.
Excellent.
Yes. Good. Good. There's something afoot here, above and beyond a make or break exhibition for this artist. I'm convinced of it. All signs point to it. You don't have two major houses in a state of vendetta, and in Canley, no matter how well that is being managed and kept under the radar, invited to an exhibition with the Emperor present, unless you want that to happen. Somebody wants that to happen, and we need to find out what it is, and you are going to find it out.
Well,
and he sinks back. Now, are there any assets that you think that you need to bring to bear?
As in assets we don't already have?
Well, now,
Or are you thinking more stuff that we have?
a bit of both, really. I mean, have a little flick through what you've got on your characters. Now, I mean, my philosophy is that any asset you have yet to use is an asset you can change, modify, or swap out.
Sure.
Before we actually go
as-
in, and there are options to create assets as part of the game, but what are you thinking, Craig?
One of my assets is an illicit recording, which could possibly be some leverage for someone who's turning up.
That's nice. So that really fits well. So yeah, you definitely want to consider making use of that. That's a good one to have in the bag. But has anyone got any assets they really don't really like or not, or would like to swap out? Because now's the time.
well, I've got space because I've only got one.
Perfect. Have a little trawl through the compendium and have a little think together about what assets you might want, bearing in mind what's going to happen.
Poison Snooper?
Ooh, tell us a bit about that.
It's, well, we should already have some built into certain rooms. But a portable one might be good. But it's essentially a poison detection device. So there's probably one built into the dining room table of our formal house dining room. And then the Contessa probably also has one for when she's dining away from that area.
Now the exhibition itself is taking part, not within the house and not within the grounds. It's in an exhibition site, and so if you can certainly deploy some of the assets that you've got in the house with you, as long as you can make a practical rationale and they're transportable. But the exhibition itself is not taking place within house territory.
Yeah. So We'll need I think we'd need a scale a poison snooper for wherever people will be consuming refreshments or food,
Oh
and it
yes.
probably makes sense for us to have a portable one to perhaps inspect things. Maybe William can hang on to that as somebody who'd be more likely to be encountering some guest illicit substances.
Mm.
I'd also like to suggest something, Tiran. What about we have poison supers, of course, but what about an obvious one and a disguised hidden one? Like something where we have it, like something that's very obvious that it's a poison snooper, but a second level where it's disguised into something. The lighting is something where
So
second layer.
the deployed ones are usually discrete. They're like part of a light
Right.
fixture, part of a like the ones that they're kind of built into a space, or we can tuck it in under the tablecloth or what have you.
Yeah, I'd like something, even more, yeah, secretive than usual. I'd like
well,
to.
guests want to be
Right.
reminded of the fact that they're assassination targets.
Right.
So
I also like to see if we could, I don't know if a checkpoint or some kind of um, security sweep could be used as an asset when guests check in.
we'll need security staff,
Sure.
which can
Guards.
be
Mhm.
which can be treated as an asset in some.
Yeah, yeah. You can have a security team as an asset, and you can have another kind of asset you could have would be a checkpoint as well. So yeah, you can certainly have that. And the poison snooper, seems like another good tangible asset to have as well, because there's going to be canapes, and those are always dangerous in any setting.
The portable one sounds good, because then you can use the portable ones, check that the fixed ones are working,
Yeah.
like in case of been tampered with.
Right.
Veritas, leans forward and says, I wonder, William, sweet boy, whether you not might consider joining the serving staff. It's a
Yeah.
catered event that's already been set up because the Emperor has very specific dietary requirements, and he has brought in his own catering organization. Now, how do you feel about branching into the world of catering?
Perfect. I'll get my tuxedo. Or whatever the tuxedo waiter outfit is that looks a bit like a tuxedo.
Yeah, he walks around his desk, and then you're not really sure where he gets this flimsy from, but it is in his hand nevertheless when he's done a complete circuit, and he hands it to you.
Yeah.
And he has, all the details for it's a minor house that specializes
Job, yeah.
in entertainment and catering. And it's got all the specs, for that organization, down to identities of the staff that you could steal, to their outfits, and even the timing of their preparations, the setup for their kitchens, everything that you need. It's a massive leg up for you, and he just casually hands it over as if he's giving you, a newspaper or something like that. It's really casual. And then he just sort of like leans back.
Thank you.
Good.
And I start having a look at it.
There's a lot of information to go
Study
through
it.
there. Yeah, you find yourself needing to study it. His eyes then flick over to. I'll have to scroll down a bit. Victor. No, Victor. He looks at him. I believe you're going to need to flex your piloting muscles. we have an ornithopter that is right now being specially prepared for this, because not only do we have to take care of His Imperial Majesty, but we have to look after the Contessa as well. I wonder if that might have slipped your minds somewhat, but she will be taking her personal ornithopter and you will be piloting it. And Victor's got his casual Han Solo style cocky grin on, and he's going, of course, no problem, Spymaster, consider it done. And the Spymaster hands him just a small portfolio that gives him technical details, flight path information, everything that he needs in terms of the flight arrangements. And he sits back a little. Now, is there anything we're missing? Security, hospitality, analysis, infiltration of catering for surveillance, assets to make sure that we keep the Contessa and these guests safe. The Emperor will look after himself, don't worry about that, but we must make sure that we do everything to keep everyone else safe, and by virtue then, him. There's something nagging me, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Nevertheless, we do have 12 hours to prepare.
Can I use a talent?
Yeah, what have you got?
Because it's a new scene.
Oh, no, not using
Can
that
I,
one again, are you?
Yeah, to ask you, what is it that's nagging him that he can't remember?
You're not the only one.
I was just
Yeah.
looking at it. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I mean, you can both bring this to bear. Now, what have we got in the momentum pool? We've got one, right? So,
There's one in there, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you could kind of work together here. But you both have had the same sort of like idea.
Oh, can we?
Oh yeah, you don't need momentum with this. What am I
try
going
to?
on about?
No. I was gonna say, we try and jog his memory and
Oh, okay.
that helps him, but you know, if we can just use that talent, then great. We'll just wait patiently until he remembers.
We've got 12 hours, so that's
Just a long wait. Yeah. Okay, so what's slipping his mind? It's the downside of great improvisational roleplay.
How does it work with? Oh, sorry, have you remembered?
I did, but it's all right. You can interrupt.
Okay. I don't want you to forget again, though.
No, I could come up with
Say
something
it
better.
first, and I'll. All right. I was just going to ask, how does it work with, like, you know, this is a you know, leisure hospitality planet. I assume that the people that are coming are going to stay in our fanciest hotels. Can we house like one side of the vendetta far away from the other, and then like stagger the opening time so they like mix with each other as little as possible?
you sound like a wedding planner.
Yeah, there's a bit of this here. Yeah.
Got to keep them in-laws away from them in-laws.
You know, we can't keep. No, you can't seat these people together. Like,
Yeah, don't put them together. They'll just fight.
I mean, that's a great idea, but it's something that I think fits more squarely with the Envoys team. Possibly,
yeah.
Possibly with some analytical and security sort of like input. But yeah, you could make those arrangements. Now, the Emperor's made his own arrangements. They're fixed in stone. Doesn't matter what you want. He's doing what he wants. And you know already that he's bringing his own ship, and he will be staying in his ship. So expect a massive spacecraft landing smack into the. There's a few places that can afford to host the Emperor's sort of like ship. So it really narrows down where he's going to be. But you're absolutely right. You could locate the two faction houses on different sides of the continent or on one island rather than another. I think that's a great idea.
And
Take
just
down
set
the
up
middle of
like
the room.
a
You want me?
yeah, we'll take
Double
down
bed
the
on
room.
each side.
Stay on that side, yeah. You get that half of the telly.
Masking tape down the middle of the room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Old sitcom.
Ah, yes, that's what it is. Now, I know a little bit about the exhibition itself, but we will need to spend some time before this begins making sure that Talia Norell is comfortable and happy with the organization of her pieces. But because of the application of those talents there, he is able to tell you that these pieces of art are part of a collection that she has undertaken, painted on Arrakis itself. They are an exhibition of Arrakeen art that she's undertaken. And that seems to have a particular resonance and significance. And I think it's at this point, I think we should take a break.
yeah.
Cool.
Ah, one cup of Dune tea later. I wonder what Dune tea is really like. Okay, so you have been meeting with Veritas, and we're into another scene. He's made it clear. That means I can get rid of that momentum, because you lose momentum
I
between
didn't say
scenes. Yeah, I've remembered some rules somewhere. We're into a new scene, and they're sort of like establishing it. The trait that I'm going to put into place is this is hella awkward 2. So there's a lot of nerves in this scene, and they're emanating from the artist Talia. This is in the evening of the same day, the first day in which you learned, to your surprise, that the Emperor himself has effectively appointed you to be not only the artistic, but the hospitality, the security directors of the artists in residence critical exhibition of what turn out to be unique Arrakeen works of art that she has painted on Arrakis itself. And this is a really significant landmark event for Ektasi, positioned ideally as it is halfway between Khitan, the homeworld of Emperor Shaddam, and Arrakis itself. Now we kind of see what I did there with positioning it midway. And you have an opportunity later in the evening to speak to Talia Norell, who has arrived obviously somewhat in advance. And she is a bundle of nerves. So this is awkward too, because of her nervousness. So that means it's going to be more challenging for you to tease information out of her. Now, have I got a token? No, I haven't. I tell you what though, I'm just going to go and grab it. Easy enough. Talia, where are you? There she is. So, have you got any traits that you want to bring to bear on this scene, or any spends you want to make, bearing in mind what you can do with momentum and determination also is to create traits to try and make things easier and more comfortable? When Talia arrives, she's handled by a member of the team, the envoys team, the ambassadorial team, but not you, Blake, in this instance, because you're busy elsewhere. But the feedback that you get from one of your House Envoy colleagues is that she's a nervous kitten. She's a buzz of energy. She's a woman in her late 40s, dressed stylishly. She's currently sat in, some not guest quarters, but a sort of like a little guest suite where she's being looked after by members of House Obscura. What would you like to do in advance to try and make her more comfortable or gain some advantage?
We use our house trait of being artistic. Sorry, Craig.
No, go on.
You
I
can
didn't have anything.
you can leverage house trait. Yeah, absolutely. You can apply
Yeah, so our
it
house
to-
trait is artistic. So
It is.
one of them. So can we be on her wavelength because she's an artist and we're super artistic, known for our super artistic houseness.
Now, one way in which you could do that is that you could host the meeting in one of your galleries, and that might make her more comfortable, and that environment, might reinforce that your House Obscura, you are an artistic house, because you obviously use your house's gallery as a showcase to visitors and potential clients. So you could do that.
And we also use our main skill in production of these lighting and artistic displays to essentially kind of engineer a informal, relaxed environment in that gallery.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so some subtle mood lighting, some artistic pieces that you pick that fit with her milieu. She works in oils, she's a figurative painter, she's not an expressive artist, so you quickly have your team rearrange key pieces in the gallery and set the lighting and the ambience. And I had raised the difficulty a couple of notches. That's going to take them down, so that's going to put you on a bit more of an even playing field. And practically, what do you want to do? Anything you want to do before you go in to see her? You've made these arrangements knowing in advance she was coming. Anything else you want to do?
Honestly, there's nothing coming to mind. If you've taken away all the paintings of people getting murdered and harassed by critics and replaced them with calming, nice ones of
Yeah.
victory and stuff, then that's all good, I think.
Absolutely. Okay.
That's-
Well, so you head into the House Obscura, one of the House Obscura's galleries. You probably have several of these, but this one has been sort of like set up, and you've had the concierge team, wining and dining and looking after every need that Talia has, and then she's escorted through to the gallery space. Do you want to be in there when she arrives, or do you want to arrive? Who's going to play in the scene?
What I
I
want
would
to do is arrive
prefer-
and announce everyone loudly.
I'm sensing a theme. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, you could do that if if you want her to
maybe
be
slightly
the
less not in the aim to intimidate, obviously.
host. Yeah.
Does this lady have her own entourage, or is she flying solo?
From what you can gather from what what your sort of like house concierge team have told you is that she is traveling alone. So I mean, she's part of the Imperial Court. She does have a support team, but they're not with her right now. She has come to meet you on her own.
Do we want to do it like in The Hobbit, where one of us comes in every 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's your food?
It's up to you.
Do I think that it would benefit me to stay out if I'm going to play a waiter when the big exhibition is and she doesn't recognise me, or do I think it'd be better for her to know that she has someone watching over her in the crowd?
Look, what do your drives say? There's a sort of little flick in
My
the
drives
drives.
say for, well, my highest drives are like power and duty, but my duty says what must be done must be done. So maybe I can go on.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say maybe I could figure. I just want to know what is the most practical thing, regardless of how I would feel about it. Like, maybe I do want to go in and see the artist, but if I know that it benefits her to not recognise me, then I'll stay outside, and maybe I'll just have a patrol around to see that there's nobody that's like got their eye on her instead.
Okay. Do you want to make an understand roll?
I could do that, or what I could do, because it's a new scene,
Oh, here we go.
is use passive scrutiny as if I asked you.
Yo. Oh, I love
This
that
thing.
talent.
I do now. This is my next favourite thing.
I am starting to loathe it. I would
Yeah, I see that.
I would like Modiphius, please do something about that. Thank you.
In that
You know
time.
it's good.
Right.
I love it.
So the one question of the GM is the first question I asked you. Do I think that it would be beneficial for me to keep out of her radar so she doesn't recognise me, or would it be better if she knew that she had somebody from our team, like on the inside, to keep an eye on her?
Okay, then on balance, you think it's better if you were there because she's nervous, because she knows this is make or break. She also does not like to play politics. She's an artist. And having someone there covertly would feel to her like she's got a safety net underneath her.
Brilliant. Then I'll go in with everybody else, and when the opportunity comes out, I'll let her know that I'll be watching your back.
Awesome.
As a waiter. Give me a signal if you need anything.
While we're still at the beginning of the scene, I'm going to trot out my passive scrutiny, or at least as soon as we meet the artist. I'm going to try to pick up on, by observing body language, is there anything that's making her nervous other than the career importance of the event? Is there anything other than the obvious that is keeping her nervous?
Okay. Then I kind of want to give you that slightly more in scene than out of scene.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm giving that free. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what it is it a held action? So
Yeah,
just
kind
whenever
of.
it makes sense,
I will
get out,
pop it
just
in.
shout at me.
Yeah. Because I think, sort of like, William, you've gleaned this about her, perhaps more as a result of, an in-between scene conversation with Veritas, where he approached you, and you had a bit of a discussion with him, because he wants you to be the key sort of like infiltrator, and you have a brief one-to-one uncomfortable tete-a-tete with Veritas, even though he is suave, and incredibly good at communication. Still, being in his presence is intimidating by virtue of the fact of who he is. So that's how you learned that crucial information. We enter into the scene, into the art gallery, having sort of reduced the difficulty. She does seem pretty comfortable in the environment, that clearly that what you have set out to do has paid off. Still a little jittery, but seems comforted by the fact that she's surrounded by works of art. There's even you even had a few of her pieces there. Bit of flattery goes a long way, and there are staff on hand, of course. Now, Blake, do you want to do your your introduction, your favourite activity in this game?
Sure, he comes through the door. He brings everyone in all at once, not like in The Hobbit, 10 minutes apart, because he wants to make it look impressive,
Oh,
Just line up
Yeah.
all the big players and pretty much say, we're at your disposal. But yeah, he introduces everyone one by one. Name and title. I won't start doing that because I'll get old real fast if I do it all the time.
Yeah,
He lines everyone up.
And record it as a clip, and then you just play it, and then there you go.
Yeah, that'd be even worse. I could speed it up, I guess. But,
So this is Talia. She's been artist in resident at the Imperial Court for the last 15 years. She dresses, in stylish clothes, but clearly this is a woman who's not overly obsessed with being fashionable. But she's current. She's a la mode without being too Versace. Oh my God, this is an uncomfortable zone of improvisation for me. And she pays attention to each and every one of you, and as you introduce them, she nods and sort of like smiles, and if you permit it, she'll, sort of like shake hands, if she perceives that you're comfortable with that. And she has a half-empty glass of Ektasi equivalent champagne on the go, and the concierge service is just discreetly sort of taking glasses away and adding them. They're that was shared amongst you as well. Given that you're in a social situation here, you're kind of expected to partake of refreshments and so forth. She says, "Thank you. I have to say, I am singularly impressed here with this space and with your house. I have not come across you before. I've heard of your reputation more distantly, but Kaitan is so far, in many respects, from this part of the universe. It's a pleasure to get to know more about House Obscura."
and it's a pleasure for us to have an artist of such great renown exhibiting here.
Please don't be coy. We all know that I haven't quite managed to fulfill the Emperor's expectations. This is, to be frank, why it's so vital for me to make sure that this exhibition is the success that the artwork deserves. And I hope we're going to be able to work together to make that happen.
Of course, you can rely on us to display your works in the best possible lighting. It is our speciality, after all. We're possibly the best curators across the galaxy.
I have no doubt that that is true.
What I'm interested in is if there is anything specifically that we can do to make your stay less stressful and more pleasant. Anything that's outside of what you'd expect from us. The ordinary, if you will.
She sort of interlaces her fingers, putting down the wine flute. And this, Tiran, is where your use of passive scrutiny comes in. And you asked, I believe, something along the lines of, is there something going on that makes her particularly sort of uncomfortable, that she's particularly anxious about?
Is she more other? I think she's going to be anxious about how big this event is for her career and her future. Is there anything? Can I read anything behind that? Is there anything that she's thinking of other than her art exhibition?
Yes, and this comes out in this moment now, as you're picking up on, the way that she is. There's a pregnant pause after Blake gives his question, and she's weighing up how much to trust you and how much to tell you. I mean, how do you get this passive scrutiny to work? What is it that you do in this moment that successfully gets her to talk?
So, as far as the scrutiny, I think that is an observational skill.
Mm.
If I detect, now that I've detected that she is hesitant or is weighing the situation, I think I would speak up and try to convince her.
Yeah, and this is a D0. This is a flat success. You're going to do it because you picked the exact right time with your passive scrutiny here. So, I mean, you can roll it and we'll see if you get extra momentum, and that will sort of help. But yeah, if you want to do a communicate skill and leverage whatever drive and focus you want, and any other talents and or momentum spends or threat spends.
So, again, I'm after the truth.
Of course, yeah.
Power of the truth, to unlock the power of the truth. So we'll say that. And how many dice we'll stick to 2, and I do have, is social awareness applicable as a focus?
Oh, hell yeah.
Alrighty.
Ooh, nice. Excellent. Yeah, so 1 momentum in the pot.
Great. I'll put that in.
Yeah, and
there we go.
Yeah, what bottom line for me, how it is that you put it, what do you say to it?
She has she must have a formal title, right? It's not artist in residence or imperial art. Would it be imperial artist?
Yeah, I mean, it would be something, artist, artists of the Empire by appointment of the Emperor Shaddam IV. It goes on. There's other little bits.
Yeah. I'll go. Artist. Craig, would you like to introduce her? But artist of the Empire. We are completely at your service, and our house is known throughout the galaxy, as I'm sure you know, for discreet and effective service for anything artists can require.
It's like a massive weight has lifted off her she says, then you must do something about Anna Vissarion. She's been besotted with me for years. She made the trip. Can you believe she made the trip all the way to Arrakeen at great expense, begging me to see this work firsthand before it was due to be transported here to Ektasi for the exhibition at the Emperor's command. It was so embarrassing and so difficult. I mean, her house, it may be falling apart, but I could not afford to treat her with disrespect. But nevertheless, the Emperor had made it clear no one was to see the work before his court and himself. I had to refuse. I have no doubt that she will be difficult. And you see her, you know, she's given that to you. It's like a weight off her shoulders. But there's something else. But you only get one bit of information, not two with passive scrutiny.
Thank you so much for sharing this information. It will be of value to us in how we plan events, and we'll certainly try to keep a healthy distance that will protect you from further awkward situations.
She leans forward a little.
I'm sure that our envoy will be extremely proactive in this regard.
Us. I have Anna Vissarion written down from earlier, but I can't. I've got nothing next to it. House Carino?
Yes, Scion, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So that means she's very important. Is it?
The heir, right? Or
Yes.
an heir?
Yes. She is.
May I ask, what exactly were the Emperor's directions to you as far as who should see this first?
Oh,
That only they would see it once it's here?
the art has remained secure and continues to remain secure until it is ready to be put in place and installed in the gallery. No one is to see it before then.
Perhaps we could come to a compromise? Is there a way we could have Anna Vissarion see it first in the gallery, once it's in the gallery? I only asked to see if we could alleviate some of this tension that obviously is causing you concern.
She seems a little taken aback by the suggestion, like it's like you're suggesting the worst, like her worst thought and or fear. Maybe there's some value in what you say, and she glances at Corrado and says, I value the perspective of a mentat in this. And she leans forward a bit and she touches Tiran sort of on the arm. Now, feel free to respond in any way that you like, but it's almost like she wants to test out your reactions and or your conditioning as a mentat by making physical contact with you, albeit briefly.
I'll in and show clear interest. Look at her, make eye contact.
Yeah. And she smiles and she says, "Is it true what I hear about the process of mental conditioning?
I'd have to know what you've heard to answer that question accurately.
That the process is laborious and, in some respects, painful.
No different than exercise. It can certainly be painful, but it's the activity one undertakes to become stronger.
She brings her hand back and she says, I like that. What you're talking about is cultivating resilience. Yes.
I suppose.
And she picks up the fluted glass and she turns back to sort of like observe you, Marlo, and she says, I think I would prefer to avoid conflict and confrontation where I can. I respect the house, but not the person. And I fear the wrath of the Emperor more than whatever it is that her house might bring to bear upon me.
Does seem
Can I
sensible.
just...
Mm.
Sorry, can I just ask her...
Yeah.
Did anyone else know? Did anyone else know what she asked you?
She considers this. I can't rule out the possibility that I was surreptitiously overheard. There are, I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, those who seek to use my position and my closeness to the Imperial Court to their own advantage. She says that completely guilelessly.
Hmm. Who'd do such a
Okay.
terrible thing?
Exactly.
Terrible, yeah.
300
But
cameras
nobody
zoom
else
in.
was.
Indeed.
Right, you're right. But nobody else was like present when you had this conversation together, as
It,
far as you know.
as far as I know, it was a private audience with His Majesty and those retainers of his court who are essential to protecting his security. No one else was present. When it came to her request of me with Anna, well, Jarell was not far from that conversation. I suppose he could have been listening indiscreetly.
And who is Drell, if I may?
He is a peer, I suppose. I mean, I find his art somewhat naive. He's another artist in residence at the court. Some might consider him to be a rival. I do not.
And how did Anna Versarian react when you turned her down?
Disappointed. I'm no empath, but I got that from her. She was disappointed. And when one is disappointed, sometimes one becomes bitter. And she's had many disappointments over the years. She's been so besotted with me.
Did she do the head down sad Snoopy walk out of the room? Or did she flounce out of the room?
It was
Did
more
she do an
the
angry flounce?
it was more the latter. She made her discomfiture well known to me, She departed quite dramatically, yes.
Just one more question, if I am to control this lady. Her obsessions around you, are they centered around your work, or are they centered around you?
But
And do I need to
surely, yeah.
And do I need to keep her away from just your art, or do I need to keep her away from your person?
Darling, you ought to know, as an artist, surely within the House Obscura here, and she sort of gesticulates around the gallery. As an artist, one art is an extension of self. And so obsessed with me she is, as well as my art. So, yes, she leans in to you, considering your question, says, yes, art and artist intrinsically linked, but that woman cannot separate the two. I am the art is me. I wish you to keep her as far away from me as you can. She's very possessive, but she is also a woman it's hard to say no to.
Well, I think I can be quite persuasive myself when I try, so leave it with me.
Is there anything further you want to try and get from Talia? What information that you wanted to know?
Just wondering if there are any special considerations that this exhibition needs. You said it was some kind of Arrakeen art form. Is it needs some sort of special environment, or?
Yeah, she considers this. Well, this is the culmination of 3 years of work, commissioned as I was by the Emperor to portray scenes from Arrakis. It will need sensitive emplacement, lighting, of course. I'm open to your artistic thoughts on how it can be best and sensitively presented. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the gallery space. I hope that's something that we could do perhaps together.
Yes, I can, of course, take you to the gallery space.
Other than that, I can't immediately think of any specific requirements in order to show off the art. Other than perhaps you would be so kind as to make sure that you keep a close eye on Jarell, Niran. I mean, I would put it past him to do what he could to sabotage the success of this event.
Noted.
Don't worry, we have a very enthusiastic internal security officer.
I'm not quite sure how to take that, but I am confident if the Emperor has selected your house for the depiction of this work that he has commissioned, that he has done so with the best of intent. And I have every confidence that you will execute my vision. And on that note, I think that might be a good point to wrap up. And hopefully the only execution is of her vision and of nobody else. And
I
thanks
don't mind an execution as long as it's not me.
fair dues. Thanks ever so much for playing, guys. Really enjoyed it.
So
Thanks
much
for
for
running.
getting that together. It's great.